أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد to you all السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, we continue today with our recital of Riyadh al-Salihin. I think we have to take the opportunity. Our Qari Yunus has just returned from Umrah, so maybe a few ayat to begin the class, inshallah. Inshallah, we have to take the barakah, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So inshallah we carry on. Today we are starting off with the chapter of the prohibition of raising one's head from bowing and or prostration before the imam. The hadith says, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامُ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ. The imam is there for you to follow. So therefore you cannot go before the imam in terms of your position standing, as well as you cannot go in before the imam into any actions of the salah. So if he goes to ruku', you go after him. If he goes to sujood, you go after him. And many people, they feel like this is a race and they want to go before the imam. This is not permitted, and that's what the hadith is saying. باب تحريم رفع المأموم رأسه من الركوع أو السجود قبل الإمام. And the hadith reads 1751 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أما يخشى أحدكم إذا رفع رأسه قبل الإمام أن يجعل الله رأسه رأس حمار أو يجعل الله صورته صورة حمار. This is a very severe tahdeed warning from the Prophet ﷺ, which is that Sayyiduna Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu is narrating. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, the one who raises his or her head before the imam in ruku' or sujood, does he who raise up his head before the imam not fear that Allah will make his head into that of a donkey, or make his appearance similar to that of a donkey. Now, this is of course talking about a possible adhab in the akhirah, but also the possibility of it being in this dunya is not a complete impossibility. Now, this warning and this severe warning gives us a clear picture of how much of a serious matter it is that we follow the Imam correctly. The Imam is there for us to follow correctly and behind. The Imam should assist the Musalli and the Muqtadi similarly by saying the takbirat in a way that facilitates for them to follow and not go before. But nonetheless, it's the duty upon the Ma'moom, the follower, to be right immediately after the Imam. As the hadith we said at the beginning, إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامِ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ. The Imam should be followed. Now there are some exceptional circumstances in which the position of the Imam, the standing of the Imam in the front saf may well not be possible, like in the case of sometimes in Tawaf in the Haram, where the Imam may be a few saf behind. And in such exceptional circumstances, like the Haram, like during Tawaf, the fatwa is that it is jaiz for them. And that's of course we're talking about position in terms of where they're standing. These hadiths talking more specifically about in action, going before in ruku' and sujood, or raising your head up before ruku' and ruku' and sujood before the Imam. Prohibition of placing the hands on the waist during the prayer like so, in a lazy, relaxed way. We're not talking about this, we're not talking about this, we're talking about this. This is not allowed for you to do in salah. I don't know, someone would, but they should not. And that is 1752. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن الخصر في الصلاة. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said, or Sayyidina Abu Hurairah narrated that we are prohibited from placing the hand on the side during the prayer. Next chapter. So there's short chapters with brief and very important messages. The abomination of joining prayer when food has been served, and also when one needs to answer the call of nature. If the food has been served like iftar or like dinner, and you're very hungry and you're going to be thinking about the food in your salah, then you should eat first. And if you need to really go use the bathroom, then you should go use the bathroom first and then join the salah. And this is clearly in the hadith, which is 1753. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا صلاة بحضرة طعام ولا وهو يدافع عن الأخبثان. Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha narrated that I heard the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, no prayer should be performed when the food has been served, nor should it be performed when a person is in need of relieving themselves. So if you need to go and use the bathroom, call of nature, and you need to eat, all of these basic needs should be fulfilled so that you are not distracted from your salah. Chapter number 340, prohibition of raising one's eyes towards the sky while praying like that. There's a difference between raising your hands in dua and raising your eyes towards the sky. Okay? During salah, it is not permissible. عن أنس بن مالك قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما بال أقوام يرفعون أبصارهم إلى السماء في صلاتهم. Okay? فاشتد قوله في ذلك حتى قال لينتهن عن ذلك أو لا تخطفن أبصارهم. Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik narrated the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, how is it that some people raise their eyes towards the sky during the prayer? He stressed this point and added, people must refrain from raising their eyes towards the heaven in prayer, or else their sight will be certainly snatched away. Serious warning once again. The point is, during salah, your eyes should be in the place of your sujood. And even if you do raise your hand during qunut or otherwise, or other extreme moments, in salah especially, then your eyes should not be towards the sky, they should still be down, your face should be down. The mas'ala always comes up, are you allowed to close your eyes in salah? And the answer is, if it helps you to focus in salah, then it's jaiz and permissible for you to close your eyes, rather it's preferred. If closing your eyes helps you to focus in salah, it's allowed. Okay, yes. But if you are raising your eyes towards the sky, then this is not permissible. Now we know that in Arafah, it's sunnah that you should raise your arms towards the skies and make dua. Are you in salah at that time? No, you're just making dua. So the mas'ala is different to start off with. And even if you were to make qunut with your arms raised, your hands raised in dua, you should not face your eyes towards the sky during salah. 1756. عن أنس قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إياك والالتفات في الصلاة فإن الالتفات في الصلاة هلكة فإن كان لابد ففي التطوع لا في الفريضة. Okay? Sorry, we're going to another chapter. The undesirability of looking around during the prayer. Many people get distracted, they look right and left, it's not allowed. And this hadith that was recited, it says, Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet Muhammad said, beware of looking around in the prayer, because random looks in the prayer are a cause of destruction. If there should be no help from it, it is permissible in the voluntary and not in the obligatory prayer, which is to look around, which is in distraction. Of course, this must be understood in context. Let's recite the other hadith first. And the hadith before that, it says 1755, عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت سألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الالتفات في الصلاة قال هو اختلاس يختلسه الشيطان في صلاة العبد. Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha narrated that I asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the random looks here and there during the prayer. He replied, it is something which shaitan snatches from the servant's prayer to try and distract them from the salah itself. That having been said, when it comes to glances in different directions during salah, then there is a difference between looking with just your eyes like that and looking with your face as well. The first being not as bad as the second. Then there is another level, which is that you turn your neck, and this is a worse level. Then we have another, which is to turn your torso and your body away from the qibla, and that may break your salah. Because from the conditions of the salah is that you are faced towards the qibla, isn't it? Okay, from the shurut of the salah is that you face towards the qibla. If you turn away from the qibla, then this may well break your salah, unless of course you have a legitimate reason. And from the legitimate reason is that you need to help somebody in need. In that case, it may be permissible for you to. But if you see that someone's life is in danger, then not only are you allowed to look around your salah, rather you have to break your salah and go and help that person. That's if someone's life is in danger. Someone's about to be attacked by a racist person. Someone's about to fall into a well or attacked by a snake, etc. In such a situation, you must turn and you must go and help that person. We're talking about in normal circumstances in which we should not be looking around. In salah, we should be focused, looking down in our place of sujood. If need be, we can close our eyes for khushu' and focus in your tilawah and in your salah. Prohibition of facing graves during the prayer time or during prayer. And Abi Marthad Kanaz or Kannaz ibn al-Husayn قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا تصلوا إلى القبور ولا تجلسوا عليها. Abu Marthad, okay, Kannaz ibn Husayn al-Husayn, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that I heard the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, do not offer prayer facing the graves and do not sit upon them. So facing towards the grave and praying is not permissible. And do not to sit on them and to just relax there, just chilling there, is not permissible as well. For you to go to the grave, there should be a purpose, which is to do ziyarah. Okay? ألا كنت قد نهيتكم عن زيارة القبور ألا فزوروها. The Prophet said that I used to previously prohibit you from visiting the graves because of their close time from new Muslim and other situations, other problems, other sins that were associated to it. Then the Prophet said, now you are permitted to go and visit the graves. So visiting graves is actually from the Sunnah. Okay? But there should be a purpose and there should be a method. You go and give salam, you go and recite Quran, you make dua for the mayyit, not just sitting there. Not just sitting there. You're allowed to sit there for tilawah, for dhikr, for visitation, not just chilling in the graveyards for no reason. That's not allowed because that leads to other problems. Also praying towards the grave intentionally. Now sometimes you find a certain place, certain masjid, namely Masjid Nabawi Sharif, in which there is a grave inside the masjid, which is that the Prophet's grave has become inside the masjid now. Okay? So in such a case, even though you may be facing towards, and the grave may well be facing in your direction between you and the Qibla, your intention isn't the grave, your intention is the Qibla itself. So the mas'ala isn't the same. Nonetheless, in other places where it's avoidable, one should avoid and one should not face towards the grave and pray therein. Prohibition of passing in front of a praying person, be very careful. And sometimes even in our masjid we make that mistake. Some people want to pray sunnah, but they'll go right to the last saf and start praying sunnah there and not leave a sutra. A sutra is some sort of a guard, a bag, a chair, something of the sort to allow for people to pass in front of you. A lot of people don't do that, they forget. So passing in front of someone praying is not allowed, as you know. Abu al-Juhaym, Abdullah ibn al-Harith, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated, the Prophet Muhammad said, if the person who passes in front of a praying person realizes the enormity of the sinfulness of this act, it will have been better for him to wait for 40 than to pass in front of him. The narrator was not sure whether the Prophet said 40 days, 40 months, or 40 years. The point is, you are not allowed to walk in front of someone that's praying. So what's the ruling? What do you do? If someone is praying, you must pass in front of them. What you do is you place a bag, you place a chair, you place something. If you can't, then you walk distance away from them and walk around. What's the distance? Ulama say the distance of 3 saf. 3 saf. So 1, 2, 3 saf. And then you can walk around. But ideally there should be some sort of sutra and covering in front of the person that's praying. The undesirability of offering voluntary prayer after the iqamah has been called باب كراهية الشروع أو شروع المأموم في نافلة بعد شروع المؤذن في إقامة الصلاة سواء كانت النافلة سنة تلك الصلاة أو غيرها. So this is a very important chapter, which is sometimes you may find that someone is starting their sunnah and they know that the iqamah time is very close. Here you should not start your salah. If you know the iqamah time is very close, you should not start your salah. Okay, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا أقيمت الصلاة فلا صلاة إلا المكتوبة. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah narrated, the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said, when the iqamah is called, then no prayer should be performed except for the obligatory prayer. The Hanafis make an exception when it comes to the sunnah of Fajr Salah. The Hanafis make an exception with only the sunnah of Fajr Salah. And that is because they don't allow for you to pray after the Salah. The next time you can pray, if you miss it, is after the sunrise. So the alternative method for them is that you find a place which is not in the masjid, maybe on the corridor, on the foyer, in another room, so that you are not disobeying the command which says that it shouldn't be a salah jama'ah and nafilah in the same place, in a somewhat distance. Okay, and then they say that as long as you are certain that you can pray your sunnah and still join the imam before he ends the salah, then this is allowed, rather it's recommended. That's the Hanafi opinion. This is not the fiqh class today. If it was, and if we were to discuss it, then you'd find abundant, enough evidence why they hold that position, as to how important the sunnah is and the problems of praying it afterwards, because the hadith of karahiyah of salah between fajr and the sunrise, and etc. So what's the escape? The escape is pray the sunnah beforehand, early in time. Ideally pray the sunnah at home before you come to the masjid. Undesirability of specifying Friday for observation of fast and the Friday night for prayer. Some people do this. They just want to fast on Yawm al-Jum'ah because it's blessed, so want to add to the blessing. But it's actually not allowed. Or choosing just Friday night for Qiyamul Layl is also makruh, which is 1760 عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا تخصوا ليلة الجمعة بقيام بين الليالي ولا تخصوا يوم الجمعة بصيام بين الأيام إلا أن يكون في صوم يصومه أحدكم. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said, do not choose the Friday night among all other nights for standing in tahajjud prayer, and do not choose the Friday among all other days for fasting, except that one of you have become accustomed to it, meaning this Friday happens to fall within your Ayyamul Bid, the white days that you're supposed to fast in the middle of the month, or that you are doing qada, or that you are doing a kaffara. Sometimes you make an oath, a pledge that Allah will fast X amount of days, or expiation for an error, for a mistake. Okay? لا يؤاخذكم الله باللغو في أيمانكم ولكن يؤاخذكم ما عقدتم الأيمان فكفارته إطعام 10 مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهلكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام. So if you make an oath, Wallah, I'm going to do something, but then you break the oath, then you have to give kafara, expiation. And from the kafarat that you give is that you feed 10 miskins from a food that you'd normally eat. أو كسوتهم, or that you clothe them. أو تحرير رقبة, or you free a slave. But if you can't do any of those things, then you fast for 3 days. So kafara, expiation, may well be the fasting of 3 days. So if you are already in the process of completing that kafara, whether it be of a yameen or a as an oath, or a kafara because of you miss Ramadan and you're doing that, what's the expiation kafara for missing a fast in Ramadan? 60 days. In consecutive order or separated? Okay. And the ayah says, I'm sure it's going to focus something like that, yeah? Okay, the kafara of missing a fast is that you have to fast for 60 days. So don't miss a fast in the first place. But the point is, if there's a reason behind why you're fasting on this Friday, except for you thinking that it's a special day so you should fast in it, you can't specify Friday as a specific day for fasting. If it's Ashura, if it's Tasu'a, if it's 11th of Muharram, or 10th or 9th of Muharram, etc. If it's Yawm al-Arafah, it's Jaiz. Otherwise not. Okay, and then the next hadith also says a similar meaning, 1761. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لا يصومن أحدكم يوم الجمعة إلا يوم قبله أو بعده. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah narrated the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying that none of you should observe the fast on Friday except that he should observe a fast either the day before or the day after. It should be a part of something else, not just itself by itself. عن أبي محمد ابن عباد قال سألت جابرا رضي الله عنه أنهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صوم الجمعة قال نعم. So this is a similar meaning when Muhammad ibn Abbad is asking Sayyidina Jabir, which is from the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually forbid the fasting on Friday? And he said yes. Okay. Juwayriyah bint al-Harith, may Allah be pleased with her, the mother of the believers, said that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited her on a Friday and she was observing the fast on the Friday. She was observing the fast on the Friday. He asked, did you observe fast yesterday? She said no. He said, did you intend to fast tomorrow? She said no. He said, in that case, give up your fast today, i.e. break your fast, because you're not supposed to be fasting Friday in and of itself by itself. Now there is something called Sawm al-Wisal. Sawm al-Wisal is someone thinks they're so good at fasting and they're so tough that they want to fast many days in one go. This is not permissible. Which is عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه وعائشة رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن الوصال. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah and Aisha radiallahu anha wardaha, they both narrated the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited observing continuous voluntary fast beyond one day. With someone fasting every day. Or says, I'm not going to have iftar. I'm just going to fast day and night. This is not permissible in Islam. Okay, we're not like monks, we're Muslims. So we observe the fast according to Islamic instruction. And Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, but this is exactly precisely because Islam is accurate and true and it's good. It's what's good for your health. It's not good for your health to go starving for so long. Intermittent fasting, that's what they call it now. We just call it siyam. So, fasting. And that is intermittent fasting, where you have iftar, you have suhoor, and you fast. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الوصال قالوا إنك تواصل قال إني لست مثلكم إني أطعم وأسقى. Listen to this, amazing. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar narrated the Prophet Muhammad prohibited observation or observing continuous fast beyond one day. The companions submitted. The Sahaba asked him, Ya Rasulullah, we see you doing this. He replied, I am not like you. I am given to eat and drink from Allah. SubhanAllah. So his body, his strength, his provision is provided by Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ had certain mu'jizat, certain miracles which are beyond, of course, any human being. Of that he could see from behind. He could see from behind, he was behind, he could see that. So many miracles of the Prophet ﷺ. These are called dala'ilun nubuwah. Evidences of the Prophet ﷺ's truth and miracles of the Prophet ﷺ. You know, on the point of like this being a scientific fact and also good for your health not to fast excessively, today I was contemplating, I don't know, I'm sure the Mufassirun have said this before. Um, and I was listening to the ayah of Surah Al-An'am by the voice of Shaykh Mahmoud Al-Banna, and he was saying, فَمَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ للإسلام ومن يريد أن يضله يجعل صدره ضيقا حرجا كأنما يصعد أو يصعد في السماء. And this was a reflection that I realized, subhanAllah, this is proof even before an analysis of the atmosphere of the earth, that there is an oxygen beyond our level of earth. Like, you know, if you go to very high places, high altitudes, you need oxygen masks, isn't it? That's why when they go to Everest, they go high, what happens? The oxygen runs out. And when you go to space, you need oxygen. Now, this is a scientific fact. It's been proven by, by experiments, but this is actually in the Quran is indicated. How so? Allah says that whomsoever Allah wants to guide, He opens their heart for Islam. Meaning closed-minded people won't find Islam. You have to be open-minded to find Islam. Okay. And Allah opens the hearts of those who find Islam. That's fine. وَمَنْ يُرِدْ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُ. As for the one who Allah wants to misguide, Allah says, يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا. Allah narrows their chest. The one who Allah doesn't want to guide. Narrows their chest. حَرَجًا. He narrows their chest, and it's difficult for them, as if He's ascending into the skies. So Allah is saying here that if you ascend into the skies, your heart and your lungs will become narrowed, your chest will become narrowed, meaning you can't breathe. You can see that from this like sort of understanding from a reflection and contemplation in it. That if Allah is saying that the ones who's misguided is like their chest is narrowed like the one ascending into the skies. The Sahaba may not have ascended into very, very high mountains, or of course they never flew. But this shows to us that even before analysis, that if you go high into the skies, then it will be difficult for you to breathe. And your chest will become narrowed. It's quite, subhanAllah, it's amazing. And so many ayat like that have indication of science behind it. Like for example, the other ayat that we always reflect upon, that وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. We have made the heavens and it is expanding. SubhanAllah. It's amazing. Okay, now the undesirability of specifying, we've already spoken about that. The prohibition of extending fast beyond one day, okay, we've already spoken about that. Prohibition of sitting on a grave. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لأن يجلس أحدكم على جمرة فتحرق ثيابه فتخلص إلى جلده خير له من أن يجلس على قبر. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah narrated that the Prophet Muhammad said, it is much better for one of you to sit on a live coal which will burn his clothes and get to his skin than to sit on a grave, on top of a grave, on a grave. There are many things we can take. What is the excessive sitting in the graves? Dishonoring the mayyiteen who are in their graves. We have to honor them. They deserve honor and respect. Okay, as you know, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was even a non-Muslim funeral procession taking place, and he stood up and said, Ya Rasulullah, this is not a Muslim. He said, is he not a bashar? Is he not a human being? So the human body has an honor attached to whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim. And Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. He didn't say, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا الْمُسْلِمِينَ. We have honored Banu Adam. خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So the honor of a human being is there, and then of course on top of it, of a Muslim is even more. باب النهي عن التجصيص عن ترصيص القبور والبناء عليه, which is that it is not permissible for you to plaster and build over the graves, make it into a tomb and etc. All that stuff that people usually do. Graves should be left simple, unless there is an actual reason of protection or preservation. Because I know you're thinking straight away about Al-Madinah Al-Munawwara, when the Prophet ﷺ grave is surrounded by all the gates. When there is an actual need for preservation, protection, then that's a separate fatwa. But generally speaking, when there isn't such a fear, then it shouldn't become a custom on a norm and a matter of boasting that my grave is going to be so decorated and look at my dad, his grave is so nice. This is nonsense. Okay, none of that is allowed in Islam. Okay, and subhanAllah, there are so many short chapters like this. This hadith says, this chapter says, prohibition of easing the call of nature at public thoroughfares in place of shadow and water pools. Meaning you can't, take a leak or use the bathroom in the middle of the street. Okay? Even if you claim to be taking your country back, doesn't give you an excuse to do so. Allah قال الله تعالى والذين يؤذون المؤمنين والمؤمنات بغير ما اكتسبوا فقد احتملوا بهتانا وإثما مبينا. And those who annoy believing men and women undeservedly, they bear on themselves the crime of slander and plain sin. You can't harm anybody, you can't inconvenience them, you can't be a source of stench, you can't be, especially in the summer, we've spoken about it before. Be careful of your own hygiene, don't harm others. Some of us smell really bad, especially in the summer days. So in the summer days, it's the armpits, and in the winter days, it's the feet because the socks. So be careful, keep yourself hygiene, because we are not allowed to harm someone else because of our own laziness and because of our own, lack of hygiene. Hadith says, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال اتقوا اللاعنين قالوا وما اللاعنان قال الذي يتخلى في طريق الناس أو في ظلهم. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه narrated, the Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم said, avoid two habits which provoke cursing. The companion said, what are those things which provoke the cursing, Ya Rasulullah? He said, relieving on the thoroughfares or under the shades where people take shelter, where people are usually using the space. So don't relieve yourself. It's common sense, but some people, like they say, common sense isn't so common. There are a bunch of hadith here which is about not giving preference to one child over other children, which is that we should be fair with our children, we should be fair with our loved ones. And if in the case where someone is married to more than one woman, then they must be fair and equal to all of their wives. Okay? And we're not, this is a subject that is in the Quran, so you can't, some people are so shy and so scared, but this is in the Quran. So if someone happens to be married to more than one woman, then it's absolutely imperative that they have to fulfill all of their rights equally and divide and share equally. And similarly when it comes to children, because these are your dhurriya, these are your family, your children as well, you have to be very, very fair. You can't be biased, you love one more than the other, give more time, give more money, it's not allowed. You have to be fair. And that is, there are a bunch of hadith in this one to this effect, which have been collated together in this chapter, which is An-Nu'man ibn Bashir, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated, my father took me to the Prophet and said to him, I have gifted one of my servants to this son of mine. One of my servants to this son of mine. The Prophet said, have you given such a gift to every one of your sons? He replied, no. Thereupon he said, take this gift back. You have to be fair. One gift, everyone gift. Okay? Another narration is, the Prophet said, be mindful of your obligation to Allah and do justice in respect to your children. My father came back and revoked his gift. So this is an active lesson for us to learn from. Another narration is, the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, have you other children besides this one? He said, yes. He, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, have you awarded a gift like this to all of them? He said, no. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I am not going to bear witness to this act of injustice. If you're going to be gifting one person, you must gift the other from your children, because they all have an equal right over you. Another narration is, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do you not accept goodness from all of them as you accept from him? He said, of course. The Prophet ﷺ said, then do not do this, i.e. give each one of them a similar gift. Okay, prohibition of a woman mourning anybody beyond 3 days except her husband, 4 months and 10 days. So if someone passes away, mourning them, being sad, feeling sorrow, feeling distraught and etc., it's, maximum is 3 days we're allowed. Especially for women, there's a reminder to sisters, the hadith is. But in the case of a woman's husband passing away, then she mourns for 4 months and 10 days, and she stays at home unless for necessities and etc. But inshallah, we'll save those ahadith to come for a lesson in the future, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, next week, bi'idhnillah. And in the meantime, we shall take any questions if anybody has it. Yes?
So you said that, for example, you can't prostrate or you can't bow down before the imam. But what about when you're towards the end of the salah and you say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and let's say you do the first one and then the second when you finish before him, is that allowed?
No, you shouldn't do any actions of the salah before the imam. Everything you should do after the imam.
So you wait before you finish?
Yes. You could do one after and then second after as well. Yes.
So you know if you do go to ruku or you do another part of salah before the imam, does that break the salah completely?
If you completely miss that rukun out, I think as in you missed this particular rukun, the action with the imam completely. So for example, what you did is, for example, imam went to ruku and you went to sujood. And then you end up missing ruku', then of course your salah will be invalid. But if it's a matter of timing, just back and forth, like you caught the imam in the position just about in time, then your reward will not be the same. You may be sinful if it's a persistent habit, but your salah will be valid. The point is, if you miss any of the arkan, the primary fara'id of the salah, if you miss them, even behind the imam, then your salah is invalid. But if you miss like a wajib or a sunnah, then the imam's salah will strengthen it and it will suffice for it. Any other questions? Yes, Wahyul Islam.
You know, you said you talk about the hadith about the prohibition of praying nafila during the iqamah.
Yeah.
So obviously the two rak'ah of fajr you gave the explanation.
Yeah.
So now say for example the other salah, zuhur, just zuhur, it's just zuhur for example. Yeah, the four sunnah mu'akkada before the fard. So say one doesn't have time to pray that sunnah mu'akkada. Is he allowed to pray the four after the fard?
Yes. You're allowed to pray the sunnah ratiba, the sunnah which is attached to the dhuhr salah, which is 4 rak'at according to Hanafis. You're allowed to pray those full 4 rak'at after salah. What you can also do is you can pray 2 rak'at before dhuhr. Okay? And then you can pray the 2 rak'ats of after, and then pray 2 rak'ats extra after that as well. So sunnah is originally 4, but you can also pray as 2, because that's a sunnah if that's the only amount of time you have left. You can also cut your sunnah short. If you've intended that you're going to pray 4 rak'at, turns out you took too long, then after 2 rak'at you're allowed to make your salah short and give salam and make it 2 rak'at sunnah as well. But you're allowed to pray the sunnah before dhuhr, after dhuhr, if you are short of time.
So say whilst doing the sunnah, say you're in the third rak'ah for example, you're standing and you hear the iqamah, can you cut the salah short at the third rak'ah?
No, you should end the salah in a way that it completes it. 2 completes it and 4 completes it, 3 doesn't complete it. So if you are already in salah, you should complete it as soon as possible. But the hadith are saying that we shouldn't start fresh salah when the iqamah has been called. Yes.
Sheikh, you're talking about getting distracted during salah. Now, imagine you're praying, you've stood up, and I mean, unfortunately, this happens sometimes. But like, say your phone's on the floor and your phone goes off, like someone's calling your phone. Like, what should you do in that case?
You're allowed to pick up your phone and turn it off or put it on silent. That's allowed. Small, minimal actions, as few steps as possible. Ideally, turn it off. If it's a mistake, khalas, you put it on silent and you put your phone away. Because excessive actions, also, according to a lot of fuqaha and scholars and jurists, it does break your salah as well. Excessive actions in salah, meaning excessive actions which are from outside of salah, doing them inside salah can damage your salah, can break your salah. This is called amal kathir. So we should try to avoid it. If you can silence your phone just by pressing one button, side button, that should be enough.
Like, where would you draw the line? Like, say, even say, for example, it's in front of you, but it's in your bag, and it's still like going off and it's a little distracting.
If it's disturbing the whole jama'ah, I would say quickly get it out, like within one move or something if you can. If it's too far and you have to like walk and turn away from qibla and etc. If it's literally in front of you, you know your bag's there, you know it's inside your laptop bag, get it, turn it off, and carry on very quickly, then that would be the right thing to do. But if it's, say for example, across a saf or somewhere else or behind you, you can take too much actions, then you'll have to deal with the heat afterwards, unfortunately. And you'll get heat for sure. Okay, any other questions? Yes, but yes.
I know you said about closing the eyes and praying. Can you expand on that? Because I've always just thought you're not allowed to.
You can't. So, yes, so closing the eyes normally is not the recommended way. The recommended way is that you look at your place of sujood in salah. And that's the better way, that's the sunnah way. However, if closing the eyes is what actually helps you to fulfill the bigger obligation of the objective of the prayer, which is khushu' and khudu', which is connecting to Allah, remembering Allah, focusing on your tilawah, doing tadabbur contemplation, if that helps you, then this sunnah of looking at the place of sujood can be can be overridden, if you like, for the greater objective of khushu' and salah. Okay, so ideally we should try to train ourselves to focus in salah while looking at the place of sujood, but we live in an age of distraction and many of us can't focus except for by closing our eyes. So it will be permitted for someone to close their eyes if it helps them to focus in their salah.
Does that specifically mean like if you're trying to remember some Quran and just
No, even if it just helps you to focus in your salah, like thinking about Allah, worship Allah as if you can see Him or that He can see you, as the Hadith says. Yes.
Let's say I'm praying at home, whether it's like Fajr Maghrib or Tahajjud, can I read a bit loud for the sake of khushu'?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, loud prayers, even if you pray them alone at home, it's recommended that you pray them loudly. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people assume that loud prayers, if you pray them alone, you should recite them quietly, but that's actually not true. The truth is, or the better option is, both are fine, but the better option is that if you pray the loud prayers, even at home, by yourself, you should still call the adhan and the iqamah and pray loudly. That's optimal, that's better. So you can and you should. Yes, you can, you should, because adhan and iqamah, although they are a call to prayer, they're actually a part of the sunnah of the salah as well. And they're from the symbols of Islam. So I can remember once I was in a trip with some brothers somewhere in Cairo, somewhere outside Cairo actually, and we're calling the adhan. Like, it's just me and you, why are you calling the adhan? So I had to remind him. Adhan is a part of the sunnah of the salah. Ji.
When you're praying loudly in a home, sunnah or the fard? Which one? Both of them?
The fard. Foroz namaz, maghribor foroz, ashar foroz, fajror foroz, ikhla goro folle, zure fora uttom. Loudly fora uttom. Ikhla qamud dia, ikhla azan, ikhla udin fora. Obviously, ideally you should come to the masjid, but if you have to pray alone, you can pray. Also, after silent tahajjudun namaz, nafil namaz or mazeh, salatul layl, tahajjudun namaz, you can pray the tilawah Quran loudly as well. Okay, yes.
What about the quiet salahs, the asr and zuhr?
They have to be quiet all the time. They have to be quiet, whether in the masjid or outside. Only the loud prayers, which are potentially could be loud and should be loud, if you're praying alone, you should pray them also loudly. That's better.
following that, how quiet do they need to be?
It's fine, as long as you can hear yourself. You shouldn't be disturbing someone. In fact, if you're in a private space, an audible whisper is fine, because it should be a whisper. But in the masjid, we should try not to disturb others. That's also very important. But if you are, for example, praying at home and you know that your kids are watching you, then you can make that whisper an audible whisper, so they also learn what they're supposed to say in salah.
Doing the sutra, how, is there the limits with how big?
It should be about an arm's length, or 4 arms length. And it could be as thin as a stick. Anything that's thin, you could dig something onto the ground, even. And sometimes in the masjid, they have them like a stick with a frame on the bottom. Those are good. Any other questions? Mashallah, it's very good that you're all asking questions, and this is good. This is how we learn.
I've got a question, Sheikh.
Yes.
Regarding people walking in front of one and praying. So I heard somewhere that if you are praying in a congregation where the imam is in front of you, obviously, so now someone can walk and you shouldn't sort of stop, because I've seen brother literally, apparently it only applies when you're praying sunnah prayer that you can actually.
There's actually a difference of opinion on whether you should fight with someone during salah or not. Okay, first of all, if the imam is in the front and the imam has a sutra in front of him, as in like a cover, like a wall, a chair, whatever, the imam has got something in front of him. So imam's leading the salah. Imagine this is not the masjid, yeah? And the imam is like a bag or something on top, sorry, in front. So now if someone walks in front of the whole jama'ah, it's not a problem because the imam is covering. Imam is like covering on behalf of the whole jama'ah. That's done. Now we're talking about the actual rows. If someone is walking through the rows during the salah, are you allowed to stop them? There's a difference of opinion. And the Hanafi scholars, the view that they take is that you shouldn't actually physically struggle. They shouldn't pass because they should know that it's a mistake. But if they must pass, then you shouldn't be fighting with them. And there's a discussion, there's hadith around it. But so what we do is, if someone needs to walk in front of you during salah, we don't actually fight with them. We just let them go. Because a lot of the times, and this is also consistent, because a lot of the times you've seen many people need to leave because they need to go bathroom, because they've got an emergency. So how are you supposed to know if they're going for wudu or an emergency, or they might need to cross because of emergency. So if I start fighting with the person, I might be stopping him from.
But you know, some brothers are literally sort of, if they could, they just punch you like, but don't.
Yeah, so it's better not to do that because we don't know who has what circumstance. You should understand. Someone may need to go to the bathroom right now, so we shouldn't stop them. And for darura, for haja, it's jaiz anyway. For necessity, it's jaiz anyway to walk in front or whatever, or walk between, walk in the
Because
zone.
you know, people just
Exactly.
literally walk.
Exactly, that's right. Because they understand it's a need. People have needs, a massive jama'ah. So inshallah, it's not a problem. We should avoid walking through sufuf, walking in front of salah, unless in the case of necessity.
If you have two child,
Yeah.
one is like normal, like us,
Yeah.
and another one is like disabled or
Yeah.
what the scenario if I have to give the special child more time, as you say.
Oh, this is jais. This is
well.
no, this is completely fine because there is a qaida, there is a very important Islamic legal maxim, which is that ad-darura, I hope I'm saying it right, tuqaddaru bimiqdariha, that a necessity is calculated based upon its proportion. So if because of a necessity you need to give more of something to someone or less of something to someone, then this would be based on the amount that's required. So if a person from the two children, one of them needs 1 hour of your time and the other needs 3 hours of your time because the other one is disabled or sick, then this is completely fine. This is not unfair. Because we understand as humans, and Sharia understands as law, that this is natural and they are more in need, so we give them more time. I mean, inheritance, no. That's not up to you. That's up to Islam. So this is one thing that we need to realize, that your wealth is your wealth until you become terminally ill. When you become in your deathbed, your wealth is not yours anymore. You don't have no say in it. It becomes the asset and the property of your children, but not according to your wishes, according to Allah's legislation, according to Islamic inheritance. So we can't give extra to anybody that's already going to inherit. So people that inherit from you are your spouses. People that inherit from you are your children. In the case of your parents, right? You can't make an additional favor for any of those who inherit. You can't say, mashallah, you know, I love my wife so much, I want to give her a bit more. That's not allowed, because she's already going to inherit. The only people you're allowed to leave a will, a wasiyah, more or something for, is those who are not inheriting. Those who are not inheriting. So maybe a cousin, maybe a servant, maybe a miskin person, maybe someone who really needs help. You can leave a note or a wasiyah or a will. In your will you can say, when I pass from my estate, I want them to receive something. And that something cannot be more than 1/3 of your estate. But anyway, to answer your question, not going to inheritance, is that you can't give more to anybody from your inheritors. And if someone did, you'll be mistaken, you may be sinful, and it would not be actioned. Okay? Furthermore, you might be thinking, okay, what I'm going to do is some people try to pull a fast one, which is that in their deathbed, they try to distribute all of it. But like I said to you, your property and your asset is no longer your asset from the moment you find out they're about to die. Your deathbed, your terminal illness, you know that you've got terminal cancer. So you're going to try and pull a fast one. Some people try to do this, like, I love my daughter more than my son. So, but the problem is, even if you did do that, you might get away with it in the dunya, but in akhirah you'll be held to account, because you're actually, technically speaking, you've already passed away. And your asset is no longer your command, it's according to Allah's division and distribution. So much dhulm and oppression happens in this regard, and people need to be very careful. And emotions often get the better of us. And in fact, in our Bangladeshi community, we often do emotional blackmail with this. You say, you know, your father passed away, it's been 2 days and you're already talking about his inheritance. And then like this, months go, weeks go, years go, and then you forget how much you owes, and then oppression happens. The brothers inherit, the sisters don't. This happens, that happens, someone who's not supposed to inherit takes it. Or, worst case scenario, someone else takes all of it. And no one inherits anything. It happens all the time. Yes?
But what if, like, when you're in a situation where, like, you have to give, like, one kid more than the other? Let's say, for example, like, you own a company, and then he has to inherit, like, a certain amount, otherwise, like, he won't be able to be, like, make decisions for that company, then in that situation you're allowed to give more.
No.
So you still have to like split it equally.
Yes. And furthermore, by the way, for your information, inheritance in this country doesn't work like that. What you got to do is, shall I give you some advice on inheritance? Okay. So in this country, there is something called inheritance tax. Yeah? The tax man takes 40% or 50%, I think, of your entire estate the moment you die. Can you believe how much they rob us? Wallah, if it wasn't for the tax man, they finish you off like they rob you again and again and again and again. Okay? When you buy something, you pay tax. When you sell something, you pay tax. Okay? Taxes are the tax. You pay tax on your income. You pay oh my goodness me, too much tax. When you die, they take half your stuff. So what you got to do, everyone that's earning money, whatever, you got to do something called, you got to speak to will specialist solicitors. What they do, they set up a trust fund for you, a trust. So for example, they say everything that you leave in your estate will become a trust. Now from the trust, you can't say exactly how much we're going to take, but what you can do is say you can do percentage. That from my children, each one of them is going to own, for example, 15%, 20%, based on the number of your children you have. And that trust holds your wealth, so it's not taxed. I'm giving it, it's not tax evasion, by the way, it's called tax management. Okay? It's literally fine. What I'm saying is legal, it's fine, yeah? Yeah, you make a trust, and each person, based on the number of your family, they own a portion of that trust. Okay, and that trust, and trusts are not supposed to last forever, they're actually interim periods. So within, say, for example, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year period, that trust is then drip fed into the inheritors, and they take their amount, which they do. If you don't do it like that, then the taxman will take half of it, and you will not be able to even inherit Islamically. So which is that, you know, the spouse may get half, and the children. It's just really bad. It's not fair at all. Yes, Akhi, go ahead.
You know, when you pray alone at home, is it not more advisable to do the iqamah and pray out loud? Because when you're actually praying alone, you're not actually alone. You've got like
that's what we actually said that.
2 angels behind you.
Correct. That's what we said. That's what we said, that even if you pray at home is better, and you should pray, call the adhan and the iqamah and pray loudly.
Plus women obviously like pray quietly.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, inshallah. MashaAllah, very, very diverse questions, and it's good. May Allah give us tawfiq and G. 2 minutes, only G.
আমরা দেখছি যে অনেক elder and younger, they making the mistake when they're joining the maybe 1 rakat missing with the Jamaat or 2 rakat missing in the Jamaat. They make a mistake with the last rakat. They just finish with the Alhamdulillah Surah Fatiha. They finish the last rakat, which is they should not be. They have to finish the first rakat how they miss it. Yeah, but they read it.
So yes, so the Haji Sahib is reminding us very important mas'ala, and well, for your information, Haji Sahib, again, this mas'ala, there's 2 opinions on it, which is that the after the salat join khurbanani, after the protop the rakat يقول after dorsoin, يقول after last rakat الشيء بيقول نويبوني, na protop rakat الشيء بيقول نويبو.
No. First rakat, if I miss first rakat, that is the different things. But if I miss first 2 rakat, that is the different things. Yeah?
So, you know, the Shafi'is and the Hanafis have a strong, like a war on this, and it's so fun to watch because there's a lot of good evidence behind it. So, what they're saying is, according to the Hanafis, we say that whatever you miss, you pray. You pray. That's the Hanafis. That's fine. And I agree with you. That's what I do. So, if I miss the first 2 rak'at, I pray the first 2 rak'at after the salam. I say, Subhanakallahumma alhamdulillah surah. Because I missed. I backdate, I pay back for what I missed. That's the default known opinion. The Shafi'is say, no. Whatever you prayed first with the Imam are your first 2 rakat. Meaning your salah starts from the moment you join the Jama'ah. So if you prayed 1 rak'ah with the Imam, that means the first rak'ah is gone. If you prayed 2 rak'ah with the Imam, the first 2 rak'ahs are gone. And what you make up for is the last 2 rak'ahs. So it's a simple difference of opinion. It's not a big deal, to be honest. But Hadith is reminding, guys, make sure you're Hanafis, which is that you pray the 2 rak'at or whatever you miss as if, or the same way, or you backdate what you missed, basically. And all that, inshallah, I'll share with you a funny story, and then inshallah wrap it up. My dad was, of course, Maulana Sahib, and he was Hanafi, of course. And once in the East London Masjid, he met a Bengali boy, and he was praying like with his legs spread apart and praying like that. Have I told you this story? Oh, so he's praying like that. So dad's like straight up. He's just gonna tell him like as it is. He said, after salam, he goes, "Kidare Baba?" Because my dear son, how are you praying? He goes, "Nasa Sami Shafi." He goes, "Uncle, I'm Shafi." He goes, "What about you?" He goes, "Where's your village?" He goes, "I'm from Sato," or something like one of those Bangladeshi villages. He goes, "Bianebazar ifwa, Shafi kundiru." He goes, "You're from Bianebazar, you became a Shafi. When did this happen?" So of course, this is like in their mindset, like, you know, Bangladeshis are generally Hanafis. But of course, if somebody studied the Shafi'i school because that's what the teacher taught them, it's completely fine. I'm sharing with you the story for humor, not as a lesson or an example. If someone learns the Shafi'i school and they prefer it and they've been trained in it, the ustads taught it, they went and studied it, no problem whatsoever. Ahlan wa sahlan, no problem whatsoever. But that's the mindset that many of our ulama and many of our elders have, which of course we appreciate that as well. جزاكم الله خيرا سبحانك اللهم اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.